How do you balance the need for speed in agile development with the demands of application security?
Well, it's an interesting question. First of all, I think we need to look at what application security is and how application security is applied across an organization. In a traditional model, you sort of think about security being the last gate that you have to jump through when you just before you get into production. But actually, that's a bit of a problem, isn't it? Because if you've gone through your requirements and you've gone through your design and you've gone through, hold on, that sounds like waterfall. That's not how it works, isn't it? Because we're doing iterative development. We want to get stuff out in front of the user as soon as possible. We don't want to have elaborate design phases, elaborate testing phases. We know that this doesn't work anymore, because it is all about getting a fast feedback. So if you have a gate at the end that just takes it into, just before I deploy, I need to talk to the head of security, inform them of everything that we're doing, and they then say, no, please don't, then you can't. Then what usually happens, I guess, is that somebody from the business will turn around and say, yes, we'll accept the risk, and then nothing will happen. So in all, if you have this approach where you sort of say security sits at the end, sits outside of that sort of fast feedback loop, then you have a problem. So really, in order to keep pace, application security needs to be part of the equation. Now, personally, I think when you go into organizations where you scale, where you have more than a few teams, you then need to think about, well, where does the knowledge around application security sit? One option would be that every single squad or every single team has got their own security specialists, or has got developers with a security specialism. The problem with that is that tends to be quite inefficient, because you have lots of people, and then you pay lots of people lots of money to do the same thing. Typically, when you look at modern application stacks, you try to use this idea of I think Netflix called it the paved road, or the golden path, or what you want to call it, so that instead of having everybody can do whatever they want, and then security needs to come in and understand 15 languages and 12 frameworks in order to sort of make sure that everything's done properly, did you try to standardize on something? Did you try to provide the teams that build the value, provide them with the tools that allow them to focus about building the value? And I think security is in a way is quite similar there, because essentially you want some specialists that really keep track of the latest trends, the latest threats, the latest techniques in order to keep something secure, and distribute that knowledge. So I still think there is scope for a security team, or an application security team, but I think they look at the bigger picture. Because again, when you look at organizations at scale, you have the problem that one or two security specialists can't understand 1,000 microservices, and can't really go and read all of the code in order to figure out, well, this is a problem, this isn't a problem. You can get away with that. So to me, if a good analogy for a security specialist is kind of like a database administrator.
What strategies or tools do you use to integrate security into agile workflows without slowing things down?
Well, I think, again, the important thing here is that you need to work out what works for the organization. If there are existing security blueprints, you probably want to make sure that some people from security go out to the teams that are meant to implement them to check whether they understand them, and not just check and sort of punish people when they don't do it, but just actively promoting them, explaining them. I found that these days a lot of the things that I do is sort of just chatting to people, promoting certain things, making sure to understand the need, and then cooperating and collaborating on making things secure. I think one of the important things to realize is that yes, when you look at the numbers of vulnerabilities that get discovered every day, I think last time I checked, there was something in the region of 120 new CVEs that gets announced every single day. Now, obviously, not all of them will be on your technology stack, but very often, if you integrate security tooling into your build pipelines and sort of say, oh, well, all we do is we'll just break the build every time a new vulnerability comes along, you'll find that you will actually very quickly, all you'll be doing is sort of investigating new vulnerabilities. The other interesting thing around vulnerabilities is that around 95% are not exploitable or are not exploited. They're exploitable, but very often they're very theoretical. One of my favorite ones is a logging vulnerability. No, not Log4Shell, which cost the Christmas 2 or 3 years ago of a lot of people in the security industry. But it's a different logging vulnerability that only is a problem if you use a message queue to deliver your log messages, which is something that I have never come across in my 25 years of development. I've never seen anybody using a Java logging framework that goes and sends stuff over a message queue. But it's there as a functionality, and somebody found a problem with it. And because it's a problem that is quite serious, it gets a CVSS score of, I don't know, 9.5, something really that from a scoring point of view, it's 9.5 out of 10. So you this is the kind of thing that you usually go, ooh, this needs to be covered extremely quickly. But then when you actually look at it and go, well, okay, the way that we're using this, it can never happen. So what do? Do you drop everything to implement a fix and have to regression test everything just because there's a score somewhere that says so? Yeah. Or do you actually decide, you know what, I don't care about this? And I think for me, application security needs to take a bit of a common sense approach. It is about making risk-based decisions. And if there is a vulnerability that even if you're vulnerable, but it's not on the list of things that are actively being exploited, if this is a theoretical vulnerability where no proof of concept exists, do you really need to kill yourself and work over the weekend? Not sure.
How do you keep security practices up to date with evolving threats while maintaining agile flexibility?
Well, I think if we go back to this idea of having again, I'm sort of speaking from a sort of organization that's a bit bigger. If you have a specialist team that can keep up to date with that, in the same way that, again, coming to the analogy of a database administrator, you want your developers to have a good understanding of what it's like to write SQL queries, to not write queries that won't scale or haven't got indices. But you don't really want every single developer to be a specialist in how to create partition files or similar in security. You need people that can look at the bigger picture, can kind of say, well, these are the patterns that we're using, these are the techniques that we employ, and if I spot something in Blue Sky, Twitter, LinkedIn, forums, then I can take that and sort of go, oh, I've heard about this, and I think we're using it. Now I'll go to the people who are actually the developers who actually use the things and talk to them about it to say, well, is this something that could affect us? And this is how it would be exploited. And so there is, I think there is a lot of work to be done to just keep standing still as a sort of somebody who works in application security. But it is all about having the right people that can focus on that kind of thing, or paying somebody a lot of money to focus for you.